Yo, what's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? That's right. We are checking in here. This is Sunday, February 26th, 2023. And this is the Boxing Source Radio Show. I'm your host, James Bell, the leader of the Boxing Source on social media. Of course, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And you know that we also do have the website theboxingsource.net. There you could get the latest rankings from each of the sanctioning bodies, and also we do have the pound for pound rankings. They're available on the website, and also the previous 4 or 5 podcasts are available on theboxingsource.net. Now, I mean, we are here just coming off of what happened in Saudi Arabia. You know what I'm saying? We are getting it in, and we will talk boxing. Big thanks for those joining in live, including Mr. Joseph Heron from War a Week Radio Network here at the start of the show. We got a few things here that we're going to be talking about in this particular episode. And, we are just coming off of what happened in Saudi Arabia. Yep. The post-fight press conference had recently concluded there, as you did have, Tommy Fury getting a split decision victory over Jake Paul. So that is the first professional loss there for Jake Paul. And I think for, some people, they're kind of like having the quick reaction to that particular fight. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Also, shout out live to Brother Tip Bayless here joining us on the live discussion. Thanks to you for joining here on this live podcast. So you'll want to get into it. I know that, I had a preview of sorts for this particular fight a few days back. As you had, of course, both of these fighters coming in, undefeated. You had, Tommy there at 8-0. You had, Jake Paul there at 6-0. Both have 4 wins. We have knockout and stoppage. And, a number of the things were about, that, they were talking about, is this something where, we're talking about, Jake Paul fighting a quote unquote real boxer. But, we're going to get into that as far as like after the analysis of the fight, because, we had something where, okay, now that Jake Paul is fighting Tommy Fury, that, hey, now we're going to see what he's going to be able to do against Tommy Fury. But, the thing about it is, if you kind of like listen to the preview that I had on the YouTube channel, I kind of like broke things down in reference to that, and how this kind of like was something that, matched 2 fighters up, I would say pretty well. If you looked at, the resume of Mr. Tommy Fury, you would see that, Tommy Fury had built his record up against guys that, didn't necessarily have stellar records, to say the least. So you did have that, and that kind of like made things a little bit even of sorts. But you know what? Before I get into this a little bit more, I wanted to bring in an esteemed guest to the Boxing Source Radio Show. Yes, he is the host of the War a Week Radio Network, Mr. Joseph Heron. What's going on, Joseph?
Hey there, Brother James. Happy Sunday to you, brother. And hope everyone enjoyed the event that decided to watch it.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I could sense a ton of illegal streaming this afternoon on Sunday. Could you?
I would say that is a factor. You know that there are people within the industry that have said that particular thing has harmed the industry fairly significantly. So
It's by far the biggest issue concerning the biggest dilemma concerning the business of boxing. And guys, it's affecting everything. The matchups that can be put together, the purses that these guys get compensated with, it affects everything. People argue that the best aren't fighting the best. Well, until these fighters actually start being more reasonable with their realistic market demand and adjust it accordingly because of the streaming, right? Because of the illegal streaming, then you're going to continue to see this. All right. But it starts with the fans. Unless they financially support these events, yeah, you're going to see less and less, right? And it's shocking. And now you're seeing guys like Plant versus Benavidez thrust on the pay-per-view platform out of necessity, right? Be honest, James, and we're not going to spend any time on this, but be honest. Plant versus Benavidez, that's not a pay-per-view fight.
It's not a pay-per-view fight, and I mean, we know that given their history, they are not popular enough for them.
Yeah, they're not big ticket sellers anywhere.
Yeah, they're not the ticket sellers in order to garner a pay-per-view event. But given how much they, like you said, in reference to the purses, given how much they would want for a fight of that magnitude, it forces the networks or whatever network that wants to carry that fight to put it on pay-per-view.
And make no mistake, guys, make no mistake, and this is a huge misnomer among diehard fans even, right? Once the network pays the licensing fee for this event, it becomes the network's event. They're the ones who determine whether or not a fight gets thrust on the pay-per-view platform, depending on the size of the purse, not the promoter. Yep. Right? Make no mistake about that, guys. That's not a huge misnomer. So you can't hang this one on Al Heyman.
Yep. Can't hang it on Al Heyman or, the promoters out there. It pretty much is determined by the fighters. All the promoters or advisors do is tell the networks, hey, this is the fight that we want to put together. This is how much money they would want for this particular fight. And the networks say yay or nay if they approve it or if they want to carry it. So,
yeah, that's it. That's it.
The brief thing on that. Now, back on to this thing here. Like I said, you got, Jake Paul, social media, I guess you call it superstar, whatever the age range is for, that type of demographic. I'm a little bit over that age of that demographic, so I can't really be all too keen as far as like how many people follow him every day. And Tommy Fury, up to a certain extent, was kind of followed in the social media things as he has been part of a reality show over in the United Kingdom. But like I said, these guys have been in battles as far as like the professional ranks, and like I was saying, you have these fights that do happen, whether it's in the UK or Mexico or sometimes in the US, but certainly in the UK, where you could find your the Glass Joes or the Gabby Jays of the professional boxing ranks, for those that know about Mike Tyson's Punch Out or the Punch Out series. That you will potentially find guys that are, 0 and 90 or something like that. And so that is what, Tommy Fury had a couple of fights with, before gaining a couple of victories, after his fourth or fifth win. So you had that on one side, and then the other side with, Jake Paul getting victories, against the likes of Tyron Woodley and Nate Robinson and Askren, the basketball players, the MMA fighters, and all that type of stuff.
Oh, geez.
I mean, for a lot of people, they felt like it was just all entertainment, that they should have just counted it as an exhibition. But, Jake Paul kind of, emphasized that, hey, this is something where, he said that he wanted to get into this and get into this for real. But, I'll kind of get into, what he meant by that a little bit later. But, going into this bout, some people kind of felt like, hey, I mean, this is something that I think a lot of pressure was going to be on Tommy Fury, not just because of his name, but him going having that type of moniker of being a professional boxer going up against Jake Paul, who, didn't necessarily go up against quote unquote boxers, but, still counted as a professional victory nonetheless against those guys.
You know what? And you can criticize him all you want, but one, boy, he's garnered the reputation of being a legitimate attraction in boxing. And to be honest, that's all networks and promoters are looking at this time, and I will say this. He seems to be, at least while he's preparing for his fights, he seems to be adhering to the Spartan lifestyle, hiring the coaches to get him in great shape, hiring a nutritionist to make sure he doesn't put crap in his body. Has two very, very smart boxing guys like BJ Flores and Jay Leon Love preparing him for battle. And you can see the improvement. He's gotten noticeably better. But was it going to be good enough to defeat a guy like Tommy Fury, who is, let's be honest, he's a part-time fighter, right? And you said it yourself. He comes from a lineage of a boxing family, right? And his big brother, is indeed the man in the heavyweight division, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, you could see it. And look, Tommy was much improved as well in this fight.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, I actually enjoyed the event. I enjoyed the pageantry. I like the poise of both fighters just being virtual novices really in this business, not having a deep amateur background. Tommy, I think, only had 12 amateur fights.
Yeah.
Jake had none. And, they both had been learning on the job. But you know what? Who cares? It was a competitive fight. And the fans really enjoyed it. And this more than likely is going to prove to be a much bigger commercial hit on pay-per-view than Plant versus Benavidez. So what that's worth? Well, that's worth a lot in this version of the business that we're seeing today.
Yep. I mean, this is, professional boxing, and it's also prize fighting. And these fighters are fighting for a prize. And the thing is, it's not necessarily about your boxing ability. It's about how many people know you,
Yeah.
And that was the thing about this particular fight is that, if I hear from people that don't necessarily talk about boxing on a daily or weekly or even monthly basis, talking about Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, then, hey, that's the thing that kind of gets these promoters, aroused as far as bringing in the most money. So I think from that, aspect, they got the attention that they, wanted to get. They're able to bring in, some superstars in there to, watch the fight in Saudi Arabia. So that was, good for them on that. But
hey, brother, what did you think of Deontay Wilder stopping by with his posse, with his lovely wife?
Well, yeah, he did stop by, and you had a number of people within boxing media kind of bring that up over the weekend. They were saying, "Oh, could this happen? This could potentially happen. Maybe he's having another fight that could come up out of nowhere, which is possible." But that was, one topic that had been happening over the weekend. So we'll see how that.
Well, and there's a lot to talk about because Shelly Finkel was shooting his mouth off about a potential fight, stepping in with Alexander Usyk, seeing if the Saudis are actually interested. And honestly, that's the only chance Deontay Wilder has of landing a big fight is if the Saudis are willing to pay his inflated purse.
Yeah, they are. But just to, be quick on that, I had raised up maybe the potential possibility of Wilder fighting Usyk, but I said that would happen in the U.S. I didn't think that it could happen in Saudi Arabia. So
look, no promoter or network in the U.S. is going to be willing to pay Deontay Wilder's inflated purse. The only chance he has of making big coin is if he fights Joshua or Fury again in the UK or fights Usyk in the Middle East. Otherwise, he's not going to get the kind of big purse he's looking for.
Or I also said potentially Fury Wilder 4 in Saudi Arabia as well. But that's a whole nother thing there. But yeah, back to this, matchup between Paul and Fury. Like from a matchmaking perspective, that was kind of a good. I think that even though it's still Sunday, you got the Monday morning quarterback type of reactions and that type of thing. I think from a matchmaking perspective, that one was a pretty good thing to do. Like you said, under the circumstances, them being the main event in an arena like, they're in Saudi Arabia, where, at least Jake Paul did have a couple of, of course, he's headlined a number of his events there through MVP promotions or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But for Tommy Fury, that was his first main event there, even though he was part of, undercard.
Yeah, and you know what? It was surprising considering that Jake Paul is the overwhelming A side, right, in the States.
Right.
He was booed. He was booed by everyone there. They loved the Furies. They love the Fury family. They love that he's a family man and he's got a newborn, and boy, they were all in pushing for Tommy Fury to win that fight. And it was obvious every time he would let his hands go, boy, they would start cheering. They started booing like religiously, booing Jake Paul as soon as they showed him on the Jumbotron as he was walking out to the crowd or to the ring.
Yeah. And I think that kind of stemmed from, the majority of the promotion for that fight being in the UK. I think, you have, what Tommy Fury's background is, not just, like I said, being a part of the Fury family, but also having, appearances in what I'd say pop culture there in the UK. So, so I think that kind of, stemmed or brought up the thing as far as like, yeah, Jake Paul is the A side, but he's coming in there like, the bad guy.
Yep. Well, Floyd did that a lot. There's nothing wrong with that. He made a killing wearing the black hat within the sport of boxing. And you know what? Fans love to hate him, but he made out like a bandit and made every event a spectacular one. Yeah. It's like half the people that tuned into Floyd fights in America, they tuned in to see if he would lose. And you know what? And it worked. It worked. It made every event really, really big. And you know what? You can't take anything away from him. And wait a minute, you're not going to talk about Floyd in his exhibition, are you?
No.
Okay, very good. I didn't even bother. But I want to ask you something, James. Mm-hmm. What did you think about all of the? See, this is when you can tell this is a mainstream event, right? Okay. When you have sites who aren't even boxing related pushing the narrative that this is a scripted, fixed outcome. Did you see that over the last couple of days?
Well, I saw it, in multiple entertainment. Recently had viewed an article from the UK where they talked with former world champion Carl Froch in reference to that as well, where he felt like it was going to be, fixed for Jake Paul to win that fight. So, so much for, Mr. Carl Froch in that particular aspect. But I will welcome in another guest to talk on this, particular topic. He, also viewed this event, of course, from YSM Sports Media. Brother Jamil in the building. What's going on?
What's good with y'all?
What's up, Jamil? How you doing, my friend?
I'm chilling, man. Good weekend.
Oh, dude, great weekend of boxing, man. Especially Showtime. That was outstanding.
Oh yeah. Yo, Elvis Rodriguez versus Adorno was a good fight.
Well, that was a great fight. And you know what, man? Everyone was looking at the weigh-in saying, "Oh, Adorno's going to get killed." I'm like, dude, That kid can fight. I don't know what you guys are talking about. He can fight.
They kind of robbed him. They robbed him of a knockdown.
Oh yeah.
They sure did. They sure did. Man. I'll be talking about that particular, bout in detail because.
So James, what did you think about how it played out? Like, what did you think of both fighters' skill set during the fight as it was playing out? Boy, it was ugly at times. I mean, yeah, both fighters looked much improved, but they looked like novices making novice mistakes. Like whenever Jake Paul would try to throw a jab, you would see him lower his right arm and tip off whenever he was going to shoot that shot, as well as a straight right hand. Whenever he's going to throw the right hand, he would lower his left. And yeah, Tommy Fury, for the most part, avoided pretty much most of the end, a great majority of the incoming, and it was really affecting his punch output. Jake Paul was starting to really question himself and fight at a more tentative, measured pace.
And Jake Paul did mention that in a sense in the post-fight press conference, but you kind of like nailed it. It kind of showed like how much that both fighters should be like have to learn in the professional game because Jake Paul having that type of form as far as like his offensive output, like that left a lot of openings for for Tommy Fury to take advantage.
And gosh, don't get me started on Tommy Fury's footwork.
Yeah.
Oh, that was atrocious. Like, and honestly, I can say this, and it was pretty obvious. And I thought that they were going to give the close, very competitive, kind of undecisive rounds to Jake Paul because, even with the jab, you could see that he was the harder puncher, the stronger man in the ring. But he's got that fighter's physique. Tommy Fury looked like a bodybuilder in there, and he didn't really have much on his shots, but he looked like he wasn't trying to put anything on his shots. It looked like he was just trying to hit the target, and that he did a lot more frequently, right? Well, the percentage was lower. I think he ended the fight with, let me pull up CompuBox real quick. At the end of the night, Tommy Fury landed 88 out of 302 punches, and that for a 29.1%. And Jake Paul landed an anemic 49 out of 157 punches over 8 rounds to land 31.2%. So it was a higher percentage, but yeah, the activity, the amount of contact, that was definitely what swayed the judges at ringside. And what did you guys think of the ref deducting 2 points? It almost looked like when he deducted that point from Jake Paul, he said, "You know what? I made a mistake. I'm going to make it up in the next round." And he had deducted Tommy Fury for excessive holding in the following round. Did you see that?
Ref was shitty, yo.
Oh boy! And look, and the fight at the end of the day could have gone either way, depending on what you liked. If you liked the harder, more consequential punches landed, you would score the close rounds in favor of Jake Paul. If you like just the output and the number of punches landed, then you would favor Tommy Fury. And you could see that at the end of the day, that's how it was scored. One judge scoring it in favor of Jake Paul, and the other two determining the split decision victory for Tommy Fury. Other two judges scoring it in favor of the just the busy fighter. But I tell you what, both fighters, they better hope Jake Paul pulls the trigger on the rematch because they're neither, like Tommy Fury's not going to make a lot of money from this point forward unless he fights Jake Paul.
Yeah, that's a definite. That is a definite. That was something
that I can't fully agree with that though, because the thing is, you know how the UK is, right? The UK is so thirsty just for entertainment that Tommy beating Jake, and Tommy's a good-looking kid, and he got the name. He's just so fucking green, man.
Oh, geez, it was. You could hear Sean Porter just trying to be nice, being the company guy. I was laughing. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's got to be rolling his eyes. Oh man, where'd Jamil go?
Oh man, I think he's in there. a busy area, so you might
Yeah, I could hear the noise in the background. But Jamal, if you're listening, please come back, brother. Always a pleasure to share the air with you, my friend. And guys, if you haven't already, please go subscribe to Brother Jamil's channel. He does a great job. Always unbiased reporting, as do you, Mr. Boxing Source James.
awesome job. He's done an awesome job, there out in the Philadelphia area, man. Yeah, like you were talking about in reference to from a business perspective, Tommy Fury, that's like his best, of course, by far the most lucrative option. I know that his dad there, Big John Fury is like, I love me some, and we'll fight Jake Paul again in a rematch. We'll fight him too in Saudi Arabia. I love the place. I'm like, yeah, but that's from a business perspective, yeah, those are his best options.
Look, unless everyone after that performance, okay, and I doubt it very seriously, unless everyone decides to jump on the Tommy Fury bandwagon after that performance. Now, keep in mind, guys, before this, he's been on Frank Warren undercards exclusively. This guy's not gonna. I mean, he may be built into a big attraction, but he's a novice still, and he's starting very late. And how old is he? How old is he? What he's already?
Tommy's 23.
He's 23 only. Oh yeah, he's only 23. Well, maybe in about, I don't know, 10 years, maybe 8, 9, 10 years. But man, Jamil, he hit the nail on the head. He's greener. Oh man, he's greener than yeah, man, he's a novice. Like, I know a lot of amateurs who could whoop his ass.
Yeah, I feel you. And here's the thing too. I mean, from a matchmaking perspective, but of course, when we have our multiple conversations, we look at the business side of this.
Yeah.
Like, what could they do from Queensberry Promotions or anything like that? How would they be able to match Tommy Fury with somebody that is like around that same level of experience where they could properly compensate him? Because
see, that's what I'm looking at. And you bring up a great point, and that's why I'm saying, unless he fights Jake Paul, well, best of luck actually earning that coin.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we had this like last bout, I guess that was part of the card there in Wembley Stadium last April there in that, Fury versus White undercard.
Yeah.
And he fought, Daniel Bosianski, but, that is chump change in comparison to what he's about to get for this fight. So now it's like, okay, if I'm not fighting Jake Paul, if I'm not fighting a KSI, if I'm actually fighting somebody like another Daniel Bosianski, how much are they going to pay me to fight someone like that? So it's like,
that's it. Yep.
It's a pro and a con for taking this fight, because now, as in the future, as a professional fighter, where can you go from here?
Yep. That's it. Hey, can you go back to I'm sorry. Can you go back to Tip Bayless's comment back when he says so Espinosa would be responsible for Plant Benavidez going on pay-per-view, landing on pay-per-view? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That make no mistake about it, guys. The network hold that determination. It's their event now. Yep. It's their event. It's just like when a casino or anyone pays the site fee to host the event.
Yep.
They're in charge of setting the ticket prices, not the promoters any longer. It's their event. It's their event. And now here's evidence of this, right? Go back and look at Terrence Crawford fighting Victor Postal, which was one of HBO's last pay-per-view. I think it was their last paiper-view on HBO.
Well, I thought was that after the rematch with Golovkin and Canelo?
No. I was saying Top Rank. It was Top Rank's last pay-per-view. Yeah, after that, Aaron was like, well, wait a minute. Peter Nelson, why are you putting this on paper? This is not a pay-per-view fight. And he was like, well, looking at the total purse amount, because it's not bringing in the ratings that we had hoped, we're going to be forced to put this on pay-per-view out of necessity and try to get some of that money back because it's not doing it with the ratings. And Bob's like, well, it defeats the purpose of being on a platform like HBO. Then no one's going to see this fight.
What the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah. And that's what nailed the coffin, right? For Tom. That's what made the decision, in essence, for Top Rank to move to ESPN. They were like, look, if you're not going to show our fights on regular subscriber HBO, then why are we even here? We're better off going to a more mainstream platform like ESPN. And so once again, guys, it's the networks that determine. Do you think Eddie Hearn wanted to put Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin on pay-per-view in America? No, DAZN didn't want that initially either. But when you start losing money and you start bleeding millions, because it's not happening, it's not, you're not getting the desired result in terms of subscription numbers. You have no choice but to put it on pay-per-view. It's the networks, guys. It's the networks that determine this.
Yep. And the thing about it is that, you know, if they just don't feel like, especially when it comes to like an HBO or a Showtime, and I bring this up a lot when it comes to those networks because they're premium networks, because they could be like, hey, look, so I could have this particular fight taking up a time slot on the weekend, Saturday night, prime time, or I could have, a movie, a blockbuster movie that could be posted on there, or a, television series that could be, put on that time slot. It could be a rerun of a television series that could be put on that time slot. And they could potentially make more off of that than a fight that you could propose to them to be put there on HBO or Showtime. So it's like, okay, if we can't even do that, then let's just put it on pay-per-view.
Yeah. Look, and it, like, guys, and this is why we often stress the business, because boxing is not run like any other sport. It's run more like the motion picture industry. It's run more like the music business, right? And where it's Showtime, they're not going to increase subscriber numbers unless they pay a lot of money to get Showtime premiere of a big box office movie. Like they spent a lot of money getting Top Gun Maverick, which is Paramount, their sister studio, right?
Yep.
They spent a lot of money. That's what's going to drive subscriber numbers, not what's a movie like I don't know, not a B-level movie. That's not going to do anything to drive subscriber numbers. So guys, it's imperative. While it's imperative for the big names of the sport to compete, they're going to have to start getting more reasonable, because they're not doing it with the ratings alone.
Yeah, just
that's where the quandary is. Now, if pay-per-view were still a healthy platform, if it were a healthy device still, and people still bought these events, then yes, we would see more fights like Plant versus Benavidez on regular subscriber Showtime. But it's not doing it in the ratings, so they have no choice but to try and get as much money back, or at least break even. They're sticking it out of necessity on the pay-per-view platform. Yeah. This is a real problem, guys, for the sport.
Yeah, it's not really much that they could do at this particular point in the way that television has kind of, what I'd say, morphed into, and how the lifestyle of people have morphed into this particular thing. So you can't necessarily have, a lot of these events on like a regular Showtime or HBO or something like, or a big event like that on an ESPN or Fox or whatever it is. So that, that's a whole different animal that these networks have to deal with. But that's more on the thing on the business tip. But we'll get back to what was said there in the victory by Tommy Fury. He said that he kind of did fairly well. Joseph did kind of bring up those punch stats, and for Tommy to have like a overall output that was twice as much as Jake Paul, that kind of like is that was something there. And Jake Paul did kind of bring that up, talk about he really did not perform up to the level that he wanted to there on that, man. Jamil is back on the scene here once again, man. And you were there checking out the fight, man. What did you think about the performances from both Jake Paul and Tommy Fury over the course of those 8 rounds?
Are you speaking to Jamal or myself?
Jamil.
Oh, yes, sir.
First, I never thought that Jake Paul. I was actually surprised that people felt that way. Jake, hold on. Shit.
You're breaking up, Jamil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna bury it. Like,
Oh, well, that's too bad. I always love hearing Jamil's insight. He's a very, very smart scribe.
Yeah, he's in a bad little area there for reception or whatnot. So he man, have to either come in a little bit later or we'll catch him on another thing there. But that output for 8 rounds, what you said for Jake, 150 something total punches there, so that's kind of what I'd say, 13 to 14 punches strong.
That's a little. That's less than 20 punches. A round.
Yeah.
That's less than 20 punches a round, guys. That's not good, even for a cruiserweight.
Yep.
Well, you look at Badou Jack. He's an old man, and he still threw more punches than Jake Paul.
And he did it over 12 rounds.
Yep, and he did it over 12 rounds.
He's up with 12 rounds there, man.
I will say this, and this is and Coach Gogie's going to go off on this on his show later on at 9, right? They were saying on the broadcast that Badou Jack becomes a 3-division world champion. What the F? Well, you know what? No, he's a 2-division world champion because he got the WBA reg title. James, do you consider that to be a legitimate light heavyweight champion?
Nah.
Did he ever fight Dimitri Bivol? Who did he fight to get that title?
He should have been the WBC light heavyweight champion, but he blew that fight against Adonis Stevenson. I'll never forgive him for that because he should have had Adonis Stevenson.
That was a great fight, though, man.
It was a great fight, but man, he blew that. He blew that fight, man. He blew.
I agree.
So I'm like, if he would have won that, like he could have been, the guy that, he would have probably taken over as the number 1 guy, like heavyweight at that particular time. If he
well, yeah, but think about this though. When these commentators, and once again, I have respect for everyone in the business, but you know what? That's just damn negligent when you say he's a 3-division world. And do you know how hard it is to become a 3-division world champion, become the man and 3 different divisions?
Right.
Do you know do you remember what a big deal it was when Roberto Duran became a 4-division world champion?
4-division world champion at that time.
Okay. Do you remember what a big deal that was? Do you remember what a big deal it was when Tommy Hearns became a 4-division world champion? And now you're just rattling off guys like Adrian Broner, 4-division world bullshit. Who did you beat? You beat? Badou Jack, a 3-division bullshit. Who did you beat?
Yeah, like the thing about it is like he beats He beats, Lunga Rakabu here for that cruiserweight belt. And
Come on. There's a reason why Canelo was interested in moving up to cruiser and getting that title.
Like he was participating.
Man, he makes Joe Joyce look like Floyd Mayweather Jr.
That was the thing about it, man. They wanted to, go ahead and take advantage of that particular, thing there. And this guy here, he
Dude, he's slower than molasses.
Yeah. And so, Badou Jack, getting that WBC title, man, props to him for getting it. It's just,
props to him for getting that opportunity, being a semi-retired fighter at 39.
Yeah, 39.
You know what? And once again, hey, tip your hat to the WBC for throwing these things around like candy, like Halloween candy.
Yep.
Guys, that's a big problem if you want to still treat it like a sport, it becomes very difficult when you look at shit like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a business, guys. It's a business. WBC, they can mandate fights, matchups, all they want. But look, if a network doesn't want to pay for it, best of luck putting it together.
Yep.
They're powerless at this point.
Yep. It's like, okay, this is the same, Badou Jack that had those fights against Jean Pascal. I remember that split decision loss against Jean Pascal in 2019. That was in Atlanta for that Tank Davis, Yuriorkis Gamboa fight joint, man.
Another great fight, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good little scrap there, man. And but like Jack, had a few fights here and there, over the past couple of years, but to get himself into that position to fight for,
it's just nonsense. And once again, it just shows the inadequacy and the lack of strength of the sanctioned organizations. Guys, they're financial bloodhounds. They will sniff out events with money and try to attach themselves to that event.
Yep.
That's all they are. They're a bunch of whores. That's all they are.
That's exactly what the WBC did here this weekend. You had your boys out there in Saudi Arabia all over, this particular fight and the joint for Paul versus Fury.
You know what this weekend of boxing reminded me of, and that's exactly right, James. That's and creating that bullshit title, the Diria champion. Oh, the Dorito belt. Yes.
Yeah,
now look. So now you know what this weekend of boxing reminded me of? Do you remember? Now it wasn't on the same night, but it was the same weekend. Do you remember? And I know Bruce remembers this. Almost 2 decades ago, right? When there was a real fight going on HBO Boxing After Dark between Miguel Cotto and Muhammad Abdullayev, a huge amateur standout, former Olympic medalist, guy from Uzbekistan, right? And he was fighting Miguel Cotto, a battle of 2 undefeated prospects, right? That was a great fight, and that was one that most boxing diehards and journalists circled on the calendar. On that same night, though, on Showtime pay-per-view, was Mike Tyson versus Kevin McBride. And I remember Jim Lampley announcing, because it ended obviously with Mike Tyson getting stopped and trying to break Kevin McBride's arm in the ring and announcing his retirement shortly thereafter. And I remember when that finished, Jim Lampley just kind of laughed and said, well, I know most real boxing fans were tuned into this fight, but in case you're interested in what was going on the other network, that farce of a fight, Mike Tyson just got stopped once again. That's what this reminded me of. All of the attention and fanfare was on Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury in Saudi Arabia, when it should have been the real fight, the war in Minneapolis. Yeah. Oh, this is a perfect segue going into that, right? Congratulations to Subriel Matias Boy, I tell you, weathering the storm. And James Gogi called it last week, said, you know what? This guy's been training up here with us in the mountains, the high altitude in Mexico. In my opinion, that's going to be the difference in the fight. And guess what it was? He ended up stopping Ermias Ponce, weathering the storm, that vicious first round, staying calm, staying collected, being in great shape, and ended up being way too much for the gallant Argentine. But what a great fight. What a great card.
Yeah, it was. The thing there with, Matias winning that vacant IBF super lightweight title, I was looking at this thing from the first round. I mean, I was picking Matias to win the fight. I didn't really know that much about Ponce. Of course, this was like Ponce's first fight in the U.S., and it was, here for the vacant IBF title. He had like a number of issues over the past like 6 months or so.
Yeah, visa issues.
Trying to get, the visa to come over to the U.S. for it. But they finally able to, get that fight going. That first round was a very good first round, a very good scrap. And the thing in the first round was they kind of like had me like, ooh, I don't know about, Matias was that a few times in that first round, Ponce was able to land a left uppercut, and he was like landing big with that left uppercut. And I was like, ooh, this is going to be something. But after that first round and probably about half of the second round, I didn't really see that left uppercut.
No, he couldn't keep up that pace.
Yeah, he couldn't.
That was the difference in the fight. He could not keep up that pace. He seemed to be in the outset the sharper, just better fighter, in the trenches. But can you keep up that pace against a tough, durable fighting machine like Subriel Matias?
But the thing with Matias too was he was able to, at least have enough defense on the inside to block a number of those body shots that Ponce was attempting, because that was Ponce's strategy there in those second and third rounds or whatever it was. He was really focusing on getting to the body of Subriel Matias, and that didn't necessarily work completely up to his favor there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it was those like third and fourth rounds, it was just all action up there, up close and in the trenches. Even with Matias backing up to the ropes, he was still able to give a good account of himself. Very good account of himself. And he didn't allow himself to really like stay on the ropes. It was only like he was there for a brief time, then he would like move over to the right and get like right around the center of the ring. So I thought that was a good little move there from Subriel Matias to, kind of like say, hey, I'm not going to be here stuck on the ropes and allow you to, try to work on me while I'm on the ropes, even though my punches are, strong enough to, keep you second guessing or whatever it is. I'm just saying from a strategy perspective, I'm not gonna allow you to get that on me, So that was something there. And in that penultimate round, he was able to catch Ponce with a series of punches, and it wasn't like a real big punch that kind of sent Ponce to the canvas. It was just that accumulation of punches, like you said, that, overwhelmed Jeremiah Ponce.
Yeah.
Once he got to the corner there at the end of that fifth round, man, it was like, you still want to go out there? And he's like,
well, I was going to say, what did you think of the corner stoppage saying, no, it's just going to get worse from here. We're going to pull the plug. What did you think of that stoppage from the corner?
I didn't like it because I just you wanted more action in that fight,
Yeah, well, I tell you what, man.
Like I said, I didn't really think that Ponce was that hurt. And hey, he was there in the post fight, there's talking with Jim Gray. I didn't really, see him, there's like saying he was significantly hurt, but at least try to, have it to the point where, and let's see if we could get right back in the fight. I mean, Subriel Matias has been in the middle of good wars himself, where it's been back and forth. Those couple of fights that he had against Pedro Sinanian were
Yep.
a test of that.
Yep.
So why not go back out there and see, what he could do? And then he could have got the momentum back.
Yeah, well, tell you what, they know their fighter, and they could see that, yeah, Matias was just getting stronger. Their man was wilting under the pressure. Now, look, that kind of bombardment, that kind of pace, you can force that. You can impose your will on British fighters like Louis Ritson. But best of luck against Subriel Matias. That guy's a machine. And he was just putting his foot to the gas. It wasn't going to get any better. So, you know what? If he's not feeling bad about the stoppage, it's very hard to question it. I would have liked to have seen him go out on his shield. I hate seeing fighters quitting the stool. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And Bruce will know this. It's never used to happen. This never used to happen back in the day, Bruce. Do you remember that? It never used to happen. That's why no Moss was such a big deal back in the day, because that was unthinkable.
Yeah, like
now you see it all the time.
Yep.
What the hell? Look, it's hard to make new fans, guys, when trainers are pulling the plug on these damn fights.
Oh, like your boy Chris Jericho. I mean, oh my God. What's that?
Dude, he's
Ben Davison.
Yeah, I tell you what, he's a cheap imitation of Chris Jericho. Yeah, like Ben Davison. That's why I'm bringing this up. Come on, guys. This is why they train so hard. Yeah. Let these guys go out on their shield. That's why, if you're going to be asking for that kind of money, damn it, you better be willing to go out on your shield.
Yep.
Because mainstream and casual fans, they want to see some fight in their fight. They want to see drama. They want to see that ebb and flow. They want to see a knockout, a clean knockout. Right? Yeah. They want to see it. That's what makes, think about what made you a fan originally, James. What fight was it? Can you think about which fight made you a diehard fan?
I wouldn't necessarily say like a diehard fan, but fights that Mike Tyson had in the early days stood out. That moment of the 1-2 punch that George Foreman laid on Michael Moore to send him to the canvas stands out above all of those fights that happened.
And then you know what? And what made that so dramatic is that Foreman was getting owned up until that point.
Yeah. So,
and he was such a big underdog. It was so dramatic, so beautiful. And then you've got the master, Jim Lampley, making the call. It happened. It happened. Oh my gosh, guys. That's what made boxing great, guys.
Yep.
Fights like that, high drama on the best platform with the best call, the best commentary. That's what made the sport great, and that's what it's missing right now.
Yeah.
Like these fighters, and once again, I have so much respect for anyone who steps foot in the ring. But damn it, if you want to make the big coin, you got to be willing to go out on your shield. Yeah. I know no one wants to hear a fight getting seriously injured. But that's why you train so meticulously. That's why you go through these grueling 8-week camps, so you can recover. You can survive the vigors of war in the ring.
But it's not just that. It's like that you be able to have the resiliency to go right back out there.
No, that's it. And what determines that? Conditioning.
Yep.
And you only get to that fight shape is if you put your body through hell during camp. That's it. No mainstream and casual audience members want to hear, oh, well, good stoppage. He lives to fight another day.
Like, he lives to fight another day. I mean, that's
dude, you know what, man?
But here's the thing with the thing with Ponce, right? I just said this is the first time that Jeremiah Ponce has been, out there in America, with this fight. it's a fight of this magnitude. It headlines a Showtime Championship boxing card. He loses that way. What makes people think that he'll be able to get back on a fight card like that? That's
Yeah, I tell you what. I tell you what. He put up a great fight. It was a war, man, for 5 rounds. But brother, good luck getting that headlining slot next time.
Yep.
It's dude. You've got all eyes on you on this platform. Go out on your shield. Like I'll say this. With Liam Wilson a couple weeks ago. He went out on his shield. I can't wait to see him fight again.
And that was the ones that people said that could be an early candidate for fight of the year there against.
I want to see it again. You know? I want to see. I can't wait to see this kid again. Okay, because he went out on his shield. He didn't quit. He didn't cry. He didn't take a knee.
Nope.
No, man, he waited until the ref stepped in and stopped it. And he still was complaining he thought he won. And because afterwards, during an interview, he started shedding tears. I really wanted this. My entire family was here. Guess what, buddy? You earned your ticket to another big-time event. Thanks for playing. That's what fans want to see. Fans want to see fighters really prepare for battle and not take a second place lightly.
Yeah.
Fans want to be inspired.
Like, you know, I mean, it's one thing to lose, but as long as you gave a gallant effort, then the fans will respect you for what you did in the ring. You know?
Yep.
And that's what it comes down to. And the thing for Ponce is he wasn't, you know, able to get that opportunity because of, you know, his corner. So that ends up being his first loss, and Subriel Matias is now a world champion. I know that he was talking about wanting to fight Regis Prograis in a unification bout.
That's a great fight. That's a great fight.
But man, hey, Prograis, I don't know, man. I've heard that he could potentially fight in Louisiana to defend the WBC belt, have a voluntary defense or something. But
you know what he should do? What he should do, right? And he should pull a Winky Wright. Winky Wright was a very unpopular fighter when he was just coming up because of his style, right?
Yep.
Boy, he would beat you on points with a really great defense and a great amateur style, right? He would beat you with the jab alone, but that wasn't really warming him up to most mainstream and casual fight fans, right? Yep. And so he did the back door. He made a real big name for himself in the UK and came in that way, right? And that's what I think Regis should do. Go fight Jack Catterall, okay, in the UK. Whoop his ass in his own home field. You'll gain a lot of fans that way. And you'll sell out a big venue. That's a big fight, man, against Jack Catterall in the UK, and that's the most money that he could possibly make. That's what Terrence Crawford did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's his best route at this particular point. You know, I mean, Jack is looking for, he's looking for an opponent since Mr. Josh Taylor wouldn't go ahead and fight him. And Jack Catterall saying that Josh Taylor,
tell you what, man.
Lopez are
tell you what, Big Regis Prograis is going to put an ass whooping on Jack Catterall, man. It's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
He's going to whoop that boy's ass. So do it. Roll the bones. You don't have any TV dates in America. Roll the bones. Go do it on Boxer, on Sky Sports. Yeah. You'll make an entirely new group of fans, followers. Because, the way Regis fights, it's an injustice that he's not a bigger name in this business.
Yeah, that he's not a bigger name in this business, or, that he's not, fully into, like, one of the major promotional companies. So, I mean, he's going to have to, figure out a way to get, right back in the mix as far as, like, being a mainstream or main event type of guy there in a very deep and very talented super lightweight division. So, that's going to be something there to kind of see. But, back on that fight card, Showtime Championship Boxing on yesterday, February 25th. Co-feature bout, you had former WBA welterweight champion Jamal James back in it against Alberto Palmetta. He got a win by unanimous decision there. I mean, that's his first fight back since losing that WBA title. He's had like a couple of battles with COVID that's hindered his return, but he's getting back in there. Had the unanimous decision. He said that he didn't really like his performance there. I wasn't all too impressed with it. Also, there are a couple of rounds where Palmetta was able to get to the inside of Jamal James and get some work in. It's just that Jamal James doesn't necessarily have something in his arsenal that makes people pay for trying to get to the inside of him. Like he has the length, the reach. He could use the jab, but it's not like a jab that has much emphasis behind it. It's not quite like a pulling jab, but it just doesn't have enough oomph behind it to say, hey, like you mentioned, Winky Wright. Winky Wright had one of the greatest jabs out there, but he made you pay with that jab too.
Yep.
And Jamal James has to develop that type. If he wants to use that style, he has to develop it where the jab, he makes people pay with that jab from an offensive perspective, and also if he could just make people miss and then just counter with the jab, bam, then it would frustrate his opponents. But I think Alberto Palmetta kind of adopted the same style that was used against Jamal James when Butayev beat him, but Butayev was just getting into the inside, but he was also walking through that jab there of Jamal James and just ended up breaking him down. But Jamal did say that he wants to try to get back in the ring ASAP. He's saying that he's trying to get back in the gym. There probably are a few matchups there that are available for Jamal James. They're in the welterweight division that he could have. It's just that, hey, maybe that could be something for him to look into there in the welterweight division. I'm seeing a recent comment here on the live chat from Jay Reddy. Shout out to Jay Reddy. Matias versus Richardson Hitchens would be a good scrap.
That's an excellent style matchup. And look, Richardson Hitchens, I'll tell you what, that would bring out the best in Richardson Hitchens, because he looks like somewhat of a boring fighter, fighting like a Cuban at times.
Right.
When a guy isn't willing to take the lead, you're not going to have that problem with Subriel Matias. That is a great job of matchmaking there, Jay Reddy.
That is a great job of matchmaking. The thing that kind of hurts me about it is that at one point Richardson Hitchens was out there within the same Haven Boxing PBC banner. Both of those guys, Hitchens and Matias, did beat Malik Hawkins, back to back. And that, that particular bout that Hitchens had against Malik Hawkins, that was like a sink or swim type of a fight of sorts for both fighters that, that Hitchens kind of ran away with. But then I guess they couldn't really find much else there for Hitchens, I guess, at that particular point. I don't know why. And so he ends up, being over there with Matchroom. So, but that's still about that I would like to see there at the 140-pound division. So, I mean, Richardson Hitchens is getting up there, and at the 140, he's climbing up the ranks there as a contender at 140. So, we'll see, what happens there at that particular point. But back to the thing with Jamal James, man. I mean, like I said, he's former WBA welterweight champion. I don't know, man. That loss to Razab Butayev, he really got beat. Really got beat in that one. Man, this kind of gets him, still there around the rankings. He was at number 10 in the WBA rankings before this fight. Palmetta was there at number 9. Baby Jesus Ramos. That like I think.
Well, look, brother. I mean, let's just be realistic. Do you see Jamal James beating anyone in the top 7 or 8?
No.
I know he gets his ass whooped, right? Virgil Ortiz punishes him. Okay, dude. Boots Ennis embarrasses him.
Yeah.
Okay, Stanionis knocks his ass out within 5 or 6 rounds.
Right. How about this, right? You have somebody that had a win recently in the WBC minor title that came up from 140, former champion 140, Mario Barrios.
You know what? That is a great crossroads fight from 2 very tall, rangy fighters.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is a great job of matchmaking as well. I love that matchup, brother. That's a crossroads fight of 2 mid-level but world-class welterweight fighters. Yep. That's a great job. Great job, man.
Yeah, I'd like to see that particular fight there for both guys. You know, Mario Barrios, yeah, you know, he did pick up a win. So was able to, you know, get that 10 rounds in, but ended up, you know, getting a big victory there at welterweight, you know, from returning from that Keith Thurman fight. And then you got Jamal James, you know, that had the loss to Raza Batayev that, you know, ended up getting this win here there against Alberto Palmetta that was, you know, ranked in the WBA ranking. So I think that would be a good little matchup later on in 2023 to kind of like determine who would be next to try to stay in the mix as far as like contending for a world title there in the welterweight division. Like you said, you got a number of guys that are there at the top. Of course, we know about the whole thing with Spencer Crawford, but you got Boots Ennis, you got Virgil Ortiz, you got Ian Stanionis there. You know, you got Keith Thurman that's still in the mix. We gotta see what's going on with that. You know what I mean? So we'll see how that goes.
So, brother, when are we going to talk about next Saturday night on Showtime from Ontario, California? Brandon Figueroa versus Mark Magsayo.
Figueroa Magsayo, March 4th.
Woo!
You know, that for me,
that's a great fight, man. That is another, once again, fight. On paper, that is another fight of the year candidate. On paper, that's not going to disappoint, man.
But I'm gonna have my eyes on Mark Magsayo for this particular fight. And it's one thing to, you know, kind of come off of, you know, getting a decision win over Gary Russell Jr., which to this day I still say,
Oh, look, he was a one-arm fighter that night.
One-arm fighter, but hey, a lot of people said even with that one arm, but then you come around and then the next fight, you know, you lose. You know, in your first defense of that WBC title. But you know,
look, this is once again, James. This is once again, James, a great job of matchmaking by Tom Brown. Yeah. You get a flawed but very, very fun fighter to watch like Brandon Figueroa, and you get an equally flawed fighter who can punch like Mark Magsayo. Well, it's going to be lights out, brother. It's going to be outstanding.
And the winner will, you know, face Ray Vargas, likely there for the WBC belt. I mean, Ray Vargas said he's coming back to 126 after his loss to Shaki Foster. So he's going to stay as the WBC champion at 126. So there's a lot on the line in this particular fight on March 4th. That's going to be a very good one. You know, there. So I'm, you know, that's going to be a good little scrap there. I can't, you know, wait for that there for March 4th headlining that particular bout. Jay Reddy on the live chat says that Figueroa will be have too much pressure on Mark Magsayo, and he says that Figueroa wins.
Yeah, look, guys, look. Let's go back and. Let's go back and look at Mark Magsayo. And once again, this was on the undercard of a big event. I don't remember which one, but it was his fight against Julio Ceja. You remember that? I think it. I'm not. What event was that? Was that on the undercard of Canelo? No, it was Manny Pacquiao versus Yordenis Ugas, right?
Yeah.
Mark Magsayo versus Julio Ceja. Go and look at that fight. He was losing that fight. And then all of a sudden, the 10th round, he lands that shot heard around the world that just put Ceja out. Referee could have counted to 50, and he wasn't getting up.
Yeah.
So you can say what you want about Mark Magsayo being green and him getting outboxed, but he's got power. He's got that power to be able to turn a fight around at any given time.
I feel like he's somebody that could legitimately, from a size perspective, he probably could fight at 130. But he's still doing his thing there at 126, and that knockout of Julio Ceja, man, that had Sean Knucklehead Gibbons go crazy.
Yeah, I remember that. And running around like he had just won the undisputed heavyweight crown. The Powerball.
Like he won the Powerball, man. So I'm like, that one was a big win for him that, put him in that position to fight Gary Russell Jr. But he has that potential to, he could catch Brandon Figueroa at any point. So Figueroa has to be really careful at that particular, bout. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing about it, And
you also see the return of Jarrett Hurd on that card in the middleweight division. Coming off of a lengthy layoff in which, he claims he had to get his mind right and he had to decide whether or not he had the appetite for destruction, so to speak. And so now, you're going to see him come back. It's interesting to see how he looks. He's going to be taking on Jose Armando Resendez in your 10-round middleweight special attraction. That's going to open up the triple header next Saturday.
Yeah, and what was this other fight here? They got Armancaro Vidal versus Elijah Garcia, two undefeated guys there in the 10-round middleweight bout too. So that should be a good one also.
Guys, once again, man, say what you want, and maybe it's too little too late for PBC on Showtime, but ever since Al Heyman started listening to the man over there, Tom Brown, one of the best matchmakers of the past 20 years, boy, the product has been outstanding. Steven Espinosa deserves a lot of credit, too, for putting his foot down, saying, look, dude, if you want to stay here, you're going to have to put together better fight cards. More even money fights.
Yep.
Guys, and once again, if you ever have any deliberation on whether or not a fight is going to be good or not, go look at the betting lines. Go look at the betting lines. That says it all, right?
Yep.
So, look, Brandon Figueroa versus Mark Magsayo. And, Jay Reddy may be correct. That pressure, boy, it often does break pipes, but it's got the opportunity to possibly make a diamond as well. Yeah. Mark Magsayo has that kind of power and chin.
That could have him open up for a counter that could come right back at Figueroa.
He's going to give him a lot of opportunities in which to land punches. Yep.
Yeah. So.
And now keep in mind also, he's a big boy. This is not Luis Neri.
Right. Yeah. And
you said it. Boy, he's a biscuit shy of 130, isn't he?
Yep, he sure is. And he has done some extensive work, out here in the States too. So he's been, in these gyms out and about. So he's been getting some real good work, over the past few months or so. So we'll see how he performs here against Brandon Figueroa, the Heartbreaker, on March 4th. So there's that. Of course, we wanted to touch on the whole thing with Mr. Adrian.
Oh, boy, I feel bad for AB, man. Go ahead and announce this, James.
I guess they had the whole thing with, him kind of coming forward in reference to his dealings with the LK Prime or whatnot. And thing about it is that, that whole thing. I mean, I hate to be like a pessimist in this sense, but I didn't really feel like it was a good little pairing for Adrian Broner, at that time.
You know, man, well, here's the biggest problem. And we talked about this when he first signed with BLK Prime. He's not a ticket seller anymore. AB has been out of the mainstream consciousness for a very long time, and diehards have all but given up on him. Like, we all were rooting for him. See, we wanted to see him come back. But guys, when they saw how poor ticket sales were for this Atlanta event,
Ooh.
it's like he's just not worth that kind of money any longer. Now, you can blame it on PBC and Al Heyman and Showtime Sports. Oh, they don't have any money. Well, not to spend frivolously on a guy like that.
Nope.
And look, you can feel bad for Adrian Broner all you want, but he's broke because of his own doing. This is a kid who made millions and was being touted as the next big star of the sport, and he flushed hundreds, $100 bills down the toilet. Do you remember that? Do you remember him being on video flushing $100 bills down the toilet?
Yep.
So, hey, brother, we know everyone makes mistakes, but it's very difficult to feel bad for Adrian Broner. He's had a great career. Man. If he wants to stay in the sport, give back to the kids in Cincinnati. Go start training with Mike Stafford. Go start training young fighters. He's got the brain.
He has the brain. He has the eye for talent too.
Yeah, dude. But look, everything that you've done everything that you were going to do in your career, it's already happened. Sorry, Adrian. That's just the truth. But yes, I tell you what, going back to the matchmaking, right, of Richardson Hitchens, what's more likely going to happen is the winner of Puello versus Rolly coming up is more than likely going to unify the weight division with Subriel Matias.
Yeah. In the live chat that Jay Reddy was talking about a potential fight between Rolly Romero and Subriel Matias. And I don't know.
Well, he's got to get past Albert Puello, though.
Yeah, you got to get past Albert Puello first. And I'll be straight up. I've said this multiple times. I was there live for Alberto Puello's fight against Batar Akhmadov in Hollywood, Florida, and I was not impressed by any bit. For that fight, there was a disputed decision. A number of people thought Akhmadov won that fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rolly.
Well, look, guys, look though. You're talking about Akhmadov. You're talking about Puello, two guys who can box, two technicians in the ring, right? Yeah. Rolly, he's still learning on the job, man. And once again, I really like Rolly, and it was a real surprise when I did commentary with him for the Frank Gore fight, right? Yeah. Frank Gore pay-per-view. He's actually a smart kid. He plays the court jester for his fans. He trolls a lot. His parents did a great job raising. He's a good kid, guys, off camera. And if you sit and talk boxing to him, he's actually a sharp kid. Mm-hmm. He plays the doofus on Instagram.
Yeah, he does it on Instagram.
But with that said, brother, he is still learning on the job. Does he have the power to put out Alberto Puello? I don't know if he's going to get that opportunity. Alberto Puello, he's not a world beater by any stretch of the imagination, but he's an excellent counterpuncher and a very crafty defensive guy, and he's going to be very difficult to hurt. When you talk about struggling with a guy like Akhmadov, James, is there any indictment on ability when you struggle against a guy like Akhmadov?
Yeah, Akhmadov is a tough out for anybody. Yeah, I would say, so that's something that, he is able to, like I said, Puello was able to get through that fight. But, Akhmadov is no walk in the park for anybody. You know, and so with that, I will be still interested to see what Puyo does here in this bout coming up against Broly whenever they do set that fight up.
Isn't that going to be next month or this month sometime in March?
Oh, I didn't think it would be that soon.
No, I think it's going to be in March, brother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like sometime in April, but did they put it in for March? That's wow.
Ooh. Now maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me
because
let me look at the calendar for this month, brother. You've got Tony Yoka on the 11th versus Carlos Takam. You've got also Callum Smith versus Stepien, right, on DAZN. You've got on March 12th, the following day, Tim Tszyu versus Tony Harrison. You've got let's see, Gilberto Ramirez versus Gabriel Rosado. Boo! On March 8th. You've got March 25th, Jose Ramirez versus Richard Comey. On the same night, you've got Dave Benavidez versus Caleb Plant Showtime pay-per-view. Yes, I think you're right. It is going to be in April, sir.
Yeah,
I don't see any room for dates on Showtime in March.
There's no room for it, and that is a Showtime championship boxing type. It's gonna be similar to like how last night was. It's gonna be that type of I would say a
brother, when you look at the calendar, the next 2 months, James, boy, it is going to be lights out. We've got some great fights the next 2 months. And obviously the big one being in April, Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Tank Davis. Wow. Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on this because there are a lot of trolls, man, just regurgitating this nonsense, right? Regurgitating negative guys like Steve Kim and Michael Montero, right? Regurgitating this bullshit. And I brought this up on my Friday show, saying that this isn't a super fight. Oh, who have they fought? Who have they fought? Now I'm going to quote Emmanuel Stewart here, right? Resumes, trinkets, right? And records are for fans, critics, and network executives who don't quite understand what they're looking at yet. If you don't see both of these guys as being elite 35-pounders, right, because of their obvious attributes in the ring, then you really don't know what you're looking at. Who gives a shit about titles in this one? They've got huge fan bases. Mainstream media is already dialed in on this, and they haven't even started promoting the event.
Not even begun to.
This is a super fight, guys. Make no mistake about it. This is a super fight.
I'm gonna put it this way. I was over in Vegas. Like it's been 3 weeks since I was in Vegas. I was there. At least I had to go out there because I had to basically honor a reservation. That particular date for that particular weekend was supposed to be one of those weekends for Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. But of course,
oh, boo!
So now while being out there, I was hanging out, a few days there with my cousin and his friends or whatever it is, and cousin is out there based in Vegas, and he talked about Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. He and his friends were talking about Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. I'm telling y'all right now, that is a super fight.
Yep.
And it's going to actually get to 1 million pay-per-view buys. I'm calling it here on this particular podcast. That fight will reach 1 million pay-per-view buys here in the United States.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so, because no one has done it since Canelo and Gennady Golovkin too.
Golovkin too. Yep.
In the States, not even Fury Wilder, not Canelo Golovkin,
nope.
Not Canelo Billy Joe Saunders.
Nope.
The closest has been Fury Wilder 2, and then the second closest has been Canelo Plant, right?
Right. But here's the thing, right? With those fights that you mentioned, Canelo Golovkin Fury Wilder or Canelo Plant. None of them had both fighters based in the U.S.
and with big fan bases leading into the fight. Yes, you're
Yes.
absolutely right. Look, man, this is a great fight, and I'll explain it this way, guys. What makes it a super fight? And like we stated earlier in the show, the boxing business is not run like the NFL or the NBA or the MLB. It's run more like the motion picture industry. Okay, when you get two blockbuster A-list actors or actresses on a movie, that makes it a blockbuster event. It makes it a blockbuster movie. Okay, it's far different from a critically acclaimed independent feature, right? If it's a big promotion coming out of a major studio with two A-list actors, guess what? It's going to be a box office hit, right?
Yep.
You just hope that it's good enough where it does really good numbers, right? But it's considered a huge box office weekend when you've got a major studio release with big-time A-list actors. That's what we're seeing with Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis. This is not an indie feature going to be on DAZN, right? This is on a major platform, Showtime, that has a longer reach, bigger subscriber base. Now, keep in mind, what were the two things that we said, okay, what were the two biggest grossing pay-per-views in boxing since Canelo Golovkin 2? What did they have in common? Okay, let's start with Fury versus Wilder 2. It was on Fox ESPN. Let's look at Plant versus Canelo. That was on Showtime. Guys, come on, I hate to say this, but DAZN just doesn't have the juice in America. In my opinion, Canelo is selling himself short if he wants to reach a much wider audience by competing on DAZN. And look, you can't argue with the numbers. I just showed you guys the numbers.
Yep.
And Plant couldn't sell out my living room on a Saturday night. And fighting him, he still did over 800,000 purchases.
Yep, that's right.
So with Garcia and Davis, guys, this is a super fight on a mainstream platform. This is going to be the big one. And this should, and guys, support this event. I don't want to see any of my brothers on this panel or on my channel or on YouTube claiming to be a diehard fan streaming that product, because it will determine the fate of the future of Showtime Championship Boxing on Paramount or CBS.
Yep.
So if you love your favorite pastime like you say you do, support this event, guys.
Like this is something that's like similar to I said this when they were initially talking about this fight. It's like Oscar De La Hoya versus Floyd Mayweather as far as like box office, the amount of attention it could get. It's this generation's Floyd Mayweather versus Oscar De La Hoya. And like I'm saying, if Showtime, Paramount Plus, Viacom do this right, they should easily reach 1 million pay-per-view buys. They have the opportunities to market this event to a large audience outside of the boxing realm. You're going to have in a couple weeks one of the biggest or the most watched sporting events of the year in the weekend in March Madness, the first rounds of March Madness. They're going to have all of those weeks, all of those weekends to promote this particular fight. They're going to have a time slot to promote that fight.
So let me ask you something, brother. Going back to Plant versus Benavidez.
Yeah.
Knowing that Plant or Benavidez are not huge ticket sales, do you think it was a wise idea for Steven Espinosa to be putting this event during March Madness?
During the elite, well, it's going to be the same date as the East and West regional final. Man,
Look, if you're gonna do that, put it on regular subscriber Showtime, and advertise during the March Madness tournament.
Yep.
Right, because that's what they did for Layman Brewster versus Sergey Liakovich so many years ago, and guess what? It was a huge hit, and that fight delivered.
Yep. And shout out to Jay Reddy with the comment. Ryan got more love than Bud and Arrow, or at least more followers than Bud.
That's impossible to ignore at this point.
Yep. And like I said, I mean, even although I do want, actually Showtime should try to do that too, is try to see if they could get in that Plant Benavidez those first couple of weeks, because if they can do it that way, have the Plant Benavidez those first couple of weeks, the first and second round, you're going to have that weekend for that first and second round to really push for people to buy that event. And then that particular weekend, that'll be the weekend of that fight. So then you're going to have the Final Four in the national championship, where all of that attention for the Final Four on that Saturday night in April to push for Tate Davis versus Ryan Garcia. I'm telling you, like Steven Espinoza, you got your people there at Showtime Sports. You can call up the people there. I don't forgot who the president is over at CBS or whatever it is now. I know where they moved there, so you get them on the phone and you tell them, hey, we want these time slots, we want these commercials in there, get us in there. We pushing these events. We gonna have people interested in these fights so we can get the most out of it. And
look, and Stephen Smart, and you've spoken to him as well, and he's gonna sell this event now that he's with CBS Sports, right? He's going to try and sell this, okay, to his boss over there, saying, look, we cultivated legitimate mainstream attraction like Gervonta Tank Davis. That doesn't just happen overnight. You have to feature him on ShowBox. You have to feature him on regular Showtime Championship Boxing. It's a process. You don't just snap your fingers and he becomes a celebrity overnight. It doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay, so it takes a process. So my guess is if Tank Davis is successful, or if this event even is just as successful as we think it's going to be, there's a very good possibility that he will sell those additional TV dates to the brass at CBS and Paramount Plus. Guys, but make no mistake about this. That's how important this fight is. This is all in and will determine the future of Showtime Championship Boxing. And look, Stephen Smart, he'll say, look, we're not just going to be working with PBC anymore. We're going to be open to working with all promoters to put together the best fights possible, just like we used to back in our glory years.
Yeah.
But that's how important this fight is, guys, for the health of the sport. And look, if you listen to other channels that pit one platform or promoter against one another, turn and run very quickly. Because it's nothing but nonsense and noise.
Run fast.
Yep. But with that said, we're over 90 minutes in, James.
Yeah, man. Yep. And well, we got that's pretty much mostly what I was going to cover here on this particular episode. Thanks to you for joining in. Thanks for YSM for getting in for the time that he was in there. And shout out to the live chat. This thing does say that Plant. Let's see. You said that Plant is done. He won't be fighting till next year, 2024, after Benavidez stops him.
Hey guys, and once again, if you're still listening, we've got 3. We need 3 subscriptions to reach 1,000. Please help us do that. Fortified Water. We only need 3.
Yeah. Jay Reddy. Man, I'm sorry, y'all. I can't even disclose what I have for the pick for that particular fight, I will hold off on that.
Well, let's hold off until we get closer to the event,
Yeah,
James.
until we get closer to the event, you know. So
Thank you, Jay Reddy. I appreciate that, my friend.
So,
God bless you, brother.
You know, with that being said, that's a close to this particular episode of the Boxing Source Radio Show. I do have a couple of technical things that I have to work on here for the remainder of this evening. We do have Mr. Joseph that I think you'll be preparing for a show coming up here in a few moments.
60s, in about 40 minutes, 37 minutes to be exact.
Coach Gogi, and I know that we're gonna hear a whole bunch of F-bombs in this particular episode, so I'll be looking forward to that.
Oh boy, yeah, he's the Filipino Emmanuel Stewart, brother. He knows everything about the business, everything about what goes on in the ring, everything about fighter management. We always learn something new when we visit with Coach Gogi. But just like Emmanuel, boy, every other word is an F-bomb coming out of his mouth. So just disclaimer right there. It's rated R, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. So, yeah, we're going to be on live in about 36 minutes now. So, James, I'll tell you what, brother, you're always a gracious host, and you're credit to the boxing business, brother. Keep doing what you do. You always put out great content, and thank you once again for being the gracious host today.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem. And to Jay Reddy, I will say next week I'll implement that on as far as like the thing for the Cash App, because like I really wanted to jump onto that, wanted to do that, but Cash App I will do that because of how YouTube does things. So
yeah, they're like the WBC. They want to tax every dollar that you get.
At minimum 30%. Yes, I'll put that on wax.
Oh, geez. Yeah. So guys, if you're going to support any platform, right? Boxing Source or Warwick Radio, please use the Cash App, even if it's $1 or $10, whatever. It's always greatly appreciated. And James and myself get 100% of the proceeds. 100%. We don't have to split it with the WBC of the internet.
Yeah,
the YouTube, right? They're the WBC of the internet. Chingo.
Yep, and that's why whenever I contribute or try to contribute to other channels, I do it through Cash App because I don't want to have YouTube getting that percentage. So yeah, and that's why I do for a number of these channels, my other channel that I support there in the Rise podcast, there with Senior and Coach Squeeze.
Great bunch of guys, man.
Yeah,
they're from your area, aren't they?
Yep, that's right. With Coach Kenny and Coach Calvin Ford, I just do it through the Cash Apps because that's the best route. But with that being said, the Sunday, February 26th, 2023 edition of the Boxing Source Radio Show has come to a close. And like I say at the end of every show, folks, the point of boxing is to hit and not get hit, not to stand and trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.